Donald Trump bans transgenders from serving in the military. And of course, social media, the liberal media, Twitter, everywhere is in complete meltdown over this. As someone who served in the military, 4 years in the Marine Corps out of high school, I applaud this decision for many reasons. Let's start with the military itself. The military is our first line national defense. Whether we're going overseas, which we haven't really had to do, but if we are protecting our borders, the military is the first line of national defense. They're our fighting forces. They're our soldiers, our Marines, our Navy, our Air Force, our Coast Guard, the whole lot. These are, the people trained to defend or to fight for the United States interests. Now, I went to the Marine Corps, like I said. You have to go through, in the Marine Corps, 3 months of boot camp. The other branches, I think it's like 2 months, and it's a little different. And it's actually probably all changed since I've been in it. One of the unfortunate things, from what I've understood, is that they've made it easier. I've heard and saw articles here and there about people complaining that they're too hard on the recruits, all the yelling and all that stuff. I mean, that stuff serves a purpose. It's to break you down, to rebuild you, to get you battle ready. Just about anyone physically, if you're anywhere athletically inclined, you don't have to be the strongest, the most athletic person out there. As long as you're not a super duper fat, lazy slob that can't walk 20 feet without stopping. If you're an average Joe, physically, just about anyone can make it through boot camp, make it through the military training. It's not impossible. A little bit of work, you gotta run, you gotta hike, you gotta do certain things, but it's not the most, like I said, if you have some sense of athleticism to you, you should be able to make the physical training. The part where it really gets you is more mental. Like I said, in Marine Corps boot camp, for 3 months straight, 3 months, you essentially have no contact with the outside world. You are under lock and control of the United States Marine Corps. You have drill instructors screaming in your face from the time you wake up till the time you go to bed. Doing, these activities, which I said, they're stressful, they're straining. You'd hike miles, hump, we called it hump. You'd hump for miles and miles. You have all your gear on. You'd run. You'd drill. There's push-ups and pull-ups. And it can get to you. It can get to anyone. It breaks you down and then it rebuilds you. But the real stress is the mental stress. Having someone in your face, any little thing that you do wrong is only going to invite screaming and yelling and shouting and making you do push-ups and making you do this. A little personal anecdote. When I was in boot camp, we were at the rifle range, and I was 18. I turned 18 in boot camp. I was a little scrawny kid. I was 18 years old. I weighed about 125 pounds soaking wet going into the Marine Corps. I gained weight outside of, like, coming out of boot camp. In those 3 months, I shot up like 6 inches, gained probably like 20, 25 pounds. But, you know, I was tiny when I went in. And when we were at the rifle range, okay, so we're at the rifle range and we're in the chow hall, the mess hall, where you eat. And when you're walking, you have your tray of food, you're carrying it, and you're walking to go sit down and eat. If there's a drill instructors coming your way, you have to get out of their way and let them go by. I forgot, you might have had to say something. Pardon me, sir, I don't remember. This was a while ago. I don't remember if we had to say anything or not, but you definitely had to get out of their way and let them go by. So this one point, I guess I didn't get out of this female drill instructor's way fast enough for her liking. And the next thing I know, she starts yelling at me. And once she starts yelling at me, every single drill instructor, I'm talking every single drill instructor in that chow hall, so say if there were 10, 15 platoons eating, maybe more, but let's just say there were like 15 platoons. Each platoon has 2 to 3 drill instructors with them. You're talking, you know, you're talking 20 different people coming in your face, screaming, yelling, berating you. And then my drill instructors took over. So after they had their fun yelling at me for as long as they did, and let me tell you, the female drill instructors, because they want to prove how tough they are, they go even harder because they have something to prove, I suppose, amongst all these men drill instructors, right? So she's yelling, they're yelling, everybody's yelling, I'm standing there, you know, I can't do anything, I can't say nothing, just yes sir, yes ma'am, yes sir, you know, and then you're trying to keep up with the ma'ams and the sirs to make sure you don't say yes ma'am to when a guy drill instructor yells at you, or vice versa. That would only get more yelling. So they finally send me back to go eat. I'm sitting there eating, and you know, I'd wear the birth control glasses. They're called birth controls because they're like ugly, and supposedly you wouldn't get any action if you had to wear these things out in public. So they called them birth controls. And I'm sitting there eating. Next thing I know, my drill instructor, you know, they always have like the good cop, bad cop sort of duality. So the bad cop, the extra tough guy, comes over, even though there's no real good cop, but there's the one that's the really bad, really mean guy. He comes over, rips my BCs off my head, my birth controls, and sticks them in my glass of milk and starts yelling at me for another 5 minutes. So then after we left the chow hall and we go back to the bunks, you know, where we sleep and do all that, they have like a chin-up bar, a pull-up bar. So as soon as we get in there, makes me go to the pull-up bar and start doing pull-ups till I can't do pull-ups anymore. And once I can't do pull-ups anymore, he just makes me hang there, like, you know, just hang from the bars until I literally cannot hang from the bars anymore. And then from there, you know, they make me go do something else. I think maybe I had to hold my rifle out in front of me like this, and every time it kind of dips, you gotta like, you can't let it dip essentially. Or maybe they made me go do push-ups until I couldn't do, I don't remember, it was a while ago. But this is the thing, the stress level is astronomical. And jumping back to the transgender issue, they say transgender people are very likely to commit suicide. I mean, these people don't know if they're male, they're female. You know, they think that they're the opposite thing of what they were born as. They may not even be a male or a female. Who knows what they are? And if they can't handle that, and if they can't handle the pressure of civilian world as a transgendered person, how are they going to survive boot camp. And then after boot camp, it doesn't stop. It doesn't get any easier outside, like post boot camp. There's still all the yelling and the physical stress and the mental stress and the training. And then you have to deal with other Marines or soldiers who, you know, they're not all the nicest people all the time. So if you have someone of this type of person, a transgender person, serving amongst, let's come on, people talk about toxic masculinity and all that kind of stuff, like there's something wrong with masculinity to begin with, but then you're going to put them in the most hyper masculine place that you can imagine, the military. A bunch of guys training, running, screaming, yelling, you know, pretty much all day, and especially depending on what your job is. I was a 2531. I was a radio operator in a artillery battalion. So generally, we'd be in 5-ton trucks and Humvees. We'd go out. We'd have forward observers who would call in to me if I was in the back at the truck, and I'd relay coordinates to the howitzers, who would go ahead and shoot the guns. Sometimes I'd go out as a forward observer as well. You know, you have different roles. Sometimes we just train as pure grunts, and you'd have to hump. And as a radio operator, I'd carry a Prick 77. It's this like World War II era radio, weighed about, I don't know, 50 pounds it felt like anyway. This radio, this giant battery, all your other gear, MREs, water, all. So you got a backpack that weighs as much as you weigh, if not more. You got to go hump 10 miles. So you have this kind of stress all the time in the military. And if these people who are highly susceptible to suicide, who are unstable, maybe even mentally, a mental disorder, some might say, if you don't know if you're a male, if you're a woman, if you were born a male and you want to become a woman, or vice versa, you're dealing with all this. How are you going to deal with the stress of the military? And then that's in non-combat situations. What happens if you are in combat? How are you going to deal with this stress? This has nothing to do with trans rights, gay rights, whatever right. This is the military. First of all, you don't have the right to join the military. Most people cannot make it into the military just to get into basic training. Then, like I said, once you get into basic training, I'd say at least 25% of the initial recruits don't make it those 3 months into the actual military. I knew someone who joined the Army, and the Army, you get 2 months of basic training, so it's less than the Marine Corps. He couldn't make it through that. You know, probably within the first few weeks, he couldn't make it through. He ended up, like, you're there for an extra, like, 4 or 5 months before they process you out, but so they have, like, pork chop platoons for, like, the fat people, you know, where they ride you extra hard to try to get you to lose weight. I mean, if you are mentally unstable, if you don't know your gender or your sex, how do you plan to make it through this high stress level training? Or, like I said, combat? That's that aspect of it. Then, real recently, like a week ago, maybe a week before Trump bans this, I saw an article where they said they're going to start having males and females shower together so that the females can get used to having transgender men who want to be called a woman that day or whatever, shower with them. Now, I could see the possibility for good times, men and women showering together, right? But all the talk that we hear from feminism, college campus rapes, and the rape culture that supposedly exists, then you're going to stick a bunch of naked women and a bunch of naked soldiers, Marines, in a shower together, and you're going to think this is a good idea? You're going to start mixing these sexes up together, naked, in showers, in dorms, and think that nothing is going to happen? You want to talk about problems with rape, supposed rape culture, and, misogyny and sexual abuse, but you're going to like force these people into these situations. Or on ships. I served on the USS Wasp, where you're out in the middle of the ocean for weeks or months on end. It's a big ship, but not when you're in the ocean. Not when you have nowhere else to go other than being on that boat. It gets real small real fast. And you're going to confine all these men, women, transgender people in this closed, secluded in the middle of the ocean. When you're in the middle of the ocean, you begin to understand how small you are. Just on this earth, never mind the universe. You look around and all you can see is ocean. And you realize, even though you're in this boat that's the size of a city block, that ocean can swallow you up in a heartbeat. But I digress. So think of all the trouble that you're looking to get by, I don't even think, honestly, women should serve in combat roles in the military. Now, call me sexist, whatever. It's not about that. They can join the military if they want. They can be in non-combat roles separate from the men. They can work together with men in non-combat situations. But when you're in these combat situations, when you're in these close quarters, when you're in these situations, first of all, talk about high stress, high testosterone. Not that some women can't handle it. Not that there aren't like your Ronda Rousey type women out there. But come on, most women are not that. Let's be honest. And again, to put men and women into these situations together and then not expect any kind of harassment. It may not even be real harassment, but then something goes sour and all of a sudden somebody's screaming rape. Think of all the problems that get caused by this. And the problems that you can avoid by not having the situation to begin with. And then, now they have this thing, cis-sexism, where transgender women, women that used to be men that changed, maybe not even changed all the way, they just want to be women in their heads. They think that if a straight male isn't attracted to them because, obvious reasons, that all of a sudden you're a cis-sexist person. Now, think of the complications that can arise in the military from this. Some transgender person is attracted to a straight male, and he's not attracted to this transgender person, and now there's all kinds of troubles going on because of cis-sexism. Just think realistically of all the problems that this causes. If this causes problems in the general world, imagine in this tight-knit, small community, closed off from the civilian world, like I said, sometimes in boats, in submarines, in combat zones, in these tight situations. You are only asking for trouble. So instead of creating situations that will ultimately lead to this trouble, when you have a bunch of young people, high testosterone people together, why not just avoid it altogether from the beginning? And then let's go to the next point. The whole idea of these transgender people joining the military because They know that they can get free sex changes paid for by the military if a military doctor deems it worthy. And the taxpayer has to pay for this now. Now, I don't care in your life if you want to change what you are. If you want to be transsexual, transgender, whatever, do whatever the hell you want. I don't care. As long as it don't affect me. And it starts to affect me when, A, it costs me money, my tax dollars. That affects me. B, when they start creating laws and that if I don't follow these laws that are forced on me, I get in trouble, and these aren't normal things that I should need to worry about, that affects me. And it affects me when it affects my national security, which is the role of the military. If you're going to start affecting people's lives because of your trans, then we have a problem. If you want to do it on your own, if you want to go trans into whatever the hell you want to trans into, go ahead, do it. You pay for it yourself. You do whatever you got to do without forcing any laws down anybody's throats. I don't care what you want to do. You want to chop off parts and put wigs on and do whatever you want to do. Go ahead. It's your life. It's not mine. But you cannot expect other people to have to change their lives for your madness. I wouldn't expect you to change your lives for things that, you know, I don't ask people to pay for my tattoos, my lifestyle. Why would I expect people to pay for these things? They're none of your business. And your transgenderism is none of my business when it comes to me paying for it. Again, it becomes my business when you start shoving your issues down my throat, like I said, financially, through law, through rules and changes in government and society, cis-sexism, and through national defense. I don't want this distraction, this disorder in the military that's going to defend us, fight for us. I'm sorry, it just doesn't belong there. This is a serious matter to some degree. I mean, it's a stupid matter that shouldn't even be spoken of. But in this world that we live in nowadays, with everything being all crazy and, you know, nihilistic and degenerate as it is, we need to set some boundaries here. You want to live a certain lifestyle, feel free to live that way in your private life. Don't make it start to affect other people. That's where the problems start. That's when people start to grow an animosity towards others. That's where hatred or isms and phobes start to develop, because now all of a sudden your life is being shoved down somebody else's throat for no apparent reason. And people don't like that. They want to live their life, and you live your life, and we'll all be fine and happy and dandy. I applaud Donald Trump and this decision. I think it's the right decision. And yeah, that's it. That's all I have on this. If you have anything else to add to this, please do so down in the comments below. If you agree and you like this video, go ahead, like it, thumbs up, share it. If you haven't done so yet, follow my channel, subscribe to my channel. And yeah, that's about it. I'm out of here.